Chapter 11 of 7 Footprints to Satan by A. Merritt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. Chapter 11. The Necklace of Senusert, Second Link. Before the faithful Thomas could arrive next morning, I was up and in the bath. I accepted without question the suit he laid out for me. It was one I had never known I possessed. On the inner side of the coat, the left, was a wide pocket. It was deep, and across top ran a line of tiny, blunt-edged hooks. I examined them carefully. The pendant fringes of Senusert's necklace were about 6 inches long. Its upper strand could be dropped upon the hooks, and the whole ornament would then hang from them freely without causing any betraying protuberance through the cloth. It was, as Satan had indicated, ingeniously made for holding that particular treasure. He handed me, too, a superbly fitting gray overcoat entirely new to me. But I was interested to note, with my name on the inside pocket, my own soft hat and Malacca cane. And at last he gave me a curiously shaped little instrument of dull gray steel and a wristwatch. "I have a watch, Thomas," I said, studying the odd small instrument. "Yes," he answered, "but this keeps the master's time, sir." "Oh, I see." Admiringly, I reflected that Satan was taking no chances upon his pawn's timepieces. All evidently were synchronized. I liked that. "But this other affair, how does it work?" "I meant to show you, sir." He went to a wall and opened a closet. He carried out what appeared to be a section of strong cabinet with a sash of glass covering it. "Try to open it, sir," he said. I tried to lift the top. It resisted all my efforts. He took the steel tool from me. It was shaped like a chisel, its edge razor-sharp, its length about 4 inches, broadening abruptly from the edge to an 1.5 inch wide handle. In this handle was a screw. He thrust the razor edge between the top sash and bottom support and rapidly turned the screw. The tool seemed to melt into the almost invisible crack. There was a muffled snap and he lifted the lid. He handed me back the instrument, smiling. I saw that the edge had opened like a pair of jaws, and that through them had been thrust another blade like a tongue. The jaws had been raised and the tongue pushed forward by incredibly powerful levers. The combination had snapped the lock as though it had been made of brittle wood. "Very easy to manage, sir," said Thomas. "Very," I replied dryly, and again I felt a wave of admiration for Satan. I breakfasted in my room and, escorted by Thomas, entered the waiting car at exactly 10:30. The curtains were down and fastened. I thought of using that irresistible little instrument in my pocket. It was an impulse my better judgment warned me not to obey. At precisely 1 o'clock I walked through the doors of the museum, keenly conscious both of the empty pocket designed to hold old Senusert's pectoral, and the tool that was to put it there. I checked my overcoat and hat and cane, nodding to the attendant who had recognized me. I went straight to the Jades, and spent half an hour looking them and some rare similar objects over in company with an assistant curator who had happened along. I rid myself of him, and at 1:45 to the second strolled into the north corridor of the Egyptian wing. I did not have to introduce myself to the guards there. They knew me. By 2 o'clock I was close to the entrance of the necklace room. At 2:05 by Satan's watch, I entered it. If my heart was beating somewhat more quickly, I did not show it. I looked casually about the room. A guard stood close to the opposite entrance, the second guard halfway between me and the central case that was my goal. Both of them scanned me carefully. Neither of them knew me. I walked over to the second guard, gave him my card, and asked him a few questions about a collection of scarabs I knew were to be exhibited. I saw his official suspicion drop away from him as he read my name, and his replies were in the tone that he would have taken to an official of the museum. I walked over to the southeast corner of the room and apparently lost myself in a study of the amulets there. Out of the corner of my eye I saw the 2 guards meet, whisper, and look at me respectfully. They separated and resumed their places. Satan's watch showed 2:10. 5 minutes to go. Swift glances about the room revealed a dozen or more sightseers. There were 3 couples of manifest respectability, middle-aged outlanders, a girl who might have been an artist, a scholarly-looking white-haired man, a man with German professor written plainly upon him, 2 well-dressed Englishmen, discussing learnedly the mutations of the Tet hieroglyphic in well-bred, low, but carrying voices, and an untidy-looking woman who seemed to be uncertain what it was all about, and 2 or 3 others. The Englishman and the girl were standing beside the cabinet that held the necklace. The others were scattered about the room. Satan's watch registered 2:14. There was a scurrying of feet in the north corridor. A woman screamed terrifyingly. I heard a shout, "Stop him! Stop him!" A figure flashed by the door, a woman running. Close after her darted another, a man. I caught the glint of steel in his hand. The watch marked 2:15. I walked over to the cabinet of the necklace, my right hand clutching the opening tool. The turmoil in the corridor was growing louder. Again the woman screamed. The people in the room were rushing toward the door. The guard from the far entrance ran past me. I stood before the cabinet. I thrust the razor edge of the little chisel between the flange of the top and the side. I turned the screw. There was a click, and the lock had snapped. The screaming ended in a dreadful, gasping wail. There was another rush of feet by the door. I heard an oath and the fall of a heavy body. I withdrew my hand from the cabinet, the necklace in it. I dropped it into my pocket, running its upper strand over the line of tiny hooks. I walked to the entrance through which I had come. One of the guards was lying upon the threshold. The German was bending over him. The girl I had taken for an artist was crouched beside him, hands over her eyes, crying hysterically. From the armor room across the corridor came an agonized shrieking, a man's voice this time. I went on, between the two black sarcophagi at the entrance to the wing, out into the great hall where the Gobelin tapestries hang, and passed through the turnstile. The guard had his back turned, listening to the sounds which, both because of distance and the arrangement of rooms and corridors, were here barely audible. I took my coat from the attendant, who, it was clear, had heard nothing. Walking to the entrance, I stepped to the right as Satan had bade, and leaned over, fumbling with a shoelace. Someone brushed past me into the museum. Straightening, I proceeded to the steps. Down on the sidewalk, 2 men were fighting. A group had gathered round them. I saw a policeman running up. Those upon the steps beside myself were absorbed in watching the combatants. I passed down. A dozen yards to my left was a blue limousine, the chauffeur paying no attention to the fighters, but polishing with a piece of chamois to the right headlight of his car. Strolling to it, I saw the chauffeur jump from his polishing, throw open the door, and stand at attention beside it, his alert gaze upon me. Satan's watch registered 2:19. I stepped into the car. The curtains were drawn, and it was dark. The door closed behind me, and it was darker still. The car started. Someone moved. Someone spoke, softly, tremulously eager. "Are you all right, Mr. Kirkham?" Eve's voice. End of chapter 11.